She's smart and sassy, but most of all, she's got big boobs.
So you suck well?
No complaints so far. As Elvira says, I ain't got no complaints so far.
Davie?
Do I suck well?
Uh-huh.
Which sense of the word are we talking about? She says toilet.
Ooh la la.
Ooh la la.
See, you already took the good line. I mean, I can't. What am I going to say? Yes? No, I suck horribly. If only somebody could teach me.
Ooh, I see a demo coming on. I've got the Darth Vader outfit in the back room, so
Yes. I'll wax that shit.
oh, I love having sluts in the room. Okay, so Maria,
Yes.
why don't we read your story? Start out with yours,
Okay then.
so we know which one we want, right?
It's the anti-Christmas story. I will indulge you all.
And what we're gonna do is how long is your story? 12 hours. No, just joking.
No, it's only 1,200 words, so it takes about 4 to 5 minutes.
Great.
To
We'll read, and then we'll read yours. And when we come back from our break, after we get done reading it, then I guess we have some of our listening and our viewing audience also has some stuff they've sent us that we're going to read out. We're going to have Boogie do that in the second half, or is that the third half? Third half, whatever.
I'm gonna get lubricated.
Ooh. Do you swallow cum?
Should we turn out some lights and give her a flashlight?
With a leprechaun. No. Okay, this story, it's called Coming Home. I knew that would excite you.
Yeah. Is that C-O-M-I-N-G or C-U-M-I-N-G?
Yes, C-O-M-I-N-G. It's been published and reprinted a number of times, and Women in Theater of Los Angeles performed it as a one-act play
Fabulous.
a few years ago, and it was great. And the actors came out and nearly spanked me after, and they were like, "You've got to write more theater," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, another writing habit that won't pay anything."
Welcome to the real world.
Yeah. So, all right, so it's called Coming Home. My mouth is sour with whiskey, and the loaded shotgun lays heavily across my lap in my sofa. This is my Christmas Eve ritual. I hate Christmas, the holidays, the time for families to gather to share love and good cheer. Bullshit. I try hard every year to forget there's a Christmas precisely because it reminds me of my family, but this fucking world won't let me. They romanticized a nightmare. Now a major industrialist, my father can list many crimes to his name, some commercial, some social. But the greatest are against his family and me, his oldest son. When he first started, he made me and my younger brothers and sisters work in the family business on our country estate, sometimes through the night. Once when I nodded off, I was probably 10 at the time, I'll never forget how he made me stand outside in the snow, barefoot. I caught a severe cold and almost suffered frostbite. Only then did my mother intervene. She sternly lectured him that she didn't have time to wipe noses and rub feet. She had charities to run. Because of his charm and rapidly advancing position in society, he frequently escaped the inquiry of the law. So, he starved us, he beat us, he deprived us of sleep, out of pure malice, or to manipulate us, and he got away with it all. On Christmas, he strangely thought he could make it all right by lavishing us, and everyone he knew, with mountains of gifts. He thought he could atone for the foul, frightful being that he was the rest of the year. How sadly wrong he was. Yet I realize now he was not unique, guilty of what so many people are to some extent, buying the right to inflict pain. I ran away one winter when I was young enough to forget exactly when, yet old enough to have the strength. I tried 3 times. The first time he caught me and locked me in the stable for a fortnight. The second time he raped one of my brothers in front of me. I wasn't daunted by the threat, only quickened by it. The third time I escaped into a heavenly indigo night, lungs heaving painfully and legs plowing heavy and wet through the snow. And I never looked back. My lips kiss the mouth of this Jack Daniels bottle, and I take another long drink, coughing as the liquor spikes my throat. Funny how parts of the gun remain so cold, yet my hands are sweaty and warm. When I can't douse the pain with alcohol, I sometimes think of using it. But so far, I haven't. Not on myself, obviously, or anyone else. My black slacks wrinkle and crease from sitting so long. The stereo radio crackles with late-night music from a modern rock station. At least it isn't Christmas music. It's 9 Inch Nails. Head like a hole, black as your soul, I'd rather die than give you control. He had a strange aversion to the color black and would never let us wear it. Perversion drives me to wear nothing but that now, contrasting with my pale skin and my faded gray eyes. The whiskey is making my head heavy. I shift in the chair, the heat of the roaring fire gently licking my face and bare arms. For many years, I wouldn't even have a fireplace in my home. Even that reminded me of his annual hypocrisy. For who doesn't look at a fireplace and envision stockings nailed into the mortar? Who doesn't think a mantle is naked without them? As my eyes close and my chin dips to my chest under the cottony weight of the whiskey blanket, I recall the letter I received from my father 3 years ago. Your mother and I are getting on in years. We're sorry for what's happened. Let's put our differences behind us. We want you to take over the family business. And we miss you. Please, come home. Manipulative bastard. Please, come home. Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away. Smoke belching from the cold fireplace steals my breath. I jerk awake as the gun slides out of my hands and smashes against the lamp, leaving the room utterly dark. Except for their eyes. My brothers and sisters, faded gray orbs in the light and luminous in the night. How else could we see as we worked? Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, meek and the bold. Their fishhook claws and teeth gouge my arms, face, legs, barbs in my flesh, pinning me to the chair like an insect specimen. The modern rock station has succumbed to Christmas music at the midnight hour, and the stereo indicator lights wink. Green, red, skin cracked and thickened with age, blood vessels bursting under the surface, hair white and tangled. Ruddy lips wet with whiskey as he crouches before me, larger than even I remember. Father. Well, well, well. His voice rumbles resonantly before he takes another drink of the Jack Daniels. The liquor sloshes in the bottle and he dangles the bottleneck in his bloated fingers. If it isn't my son, my wayward fucking son. My brothers and sisters laugh like squealing rats. Heart pounding, I silently watch him with that childish fear. For years your mother and I looked for you. Of course he couldn't find me. I'm one of the only ones besides himself that's not on the list. He wipes his mouth on a white fur cuff. His eyes have their own luminosity, a subtle fire of contempt for humanity. Then we found you and thought about visiting just to check on you, but no, he says, eyes narrowing. We decided, son, that this Christmas you were coming home for the holidays. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Screams from my throat as their hands tear me from the chair. Punctures and scratches raise red, blood welling on my skin as my arms desperately flail through the smoke. On they send, on without end, their joyful tone to every home, songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Cinders scatter onto the carpet as they force me into the fireplace. My head strikes the mantel as I struggle and I slump, blinded with electric pain under the flue. Soot rains softly over my body, and blood from my ear trickles down my neck as small, strong hands heave my limp form to the roof above. Hooves pounding, clattering. And he laughs. That terrible laugh. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Thank you.
Whoa, that gave me chills. How many of us have experienced that at Christmas?
Question is, how many haven't?
How many wish to? No. That was amazing.
Thank
Wow.
you.
I didn't know you could sing.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other life. I mean, people probably see sometimes, like on LiveJournal or whatever, I have the moniker Lady Euthanasia. And I sang for a few years as Lady Euthanasia. I had my own brand of music called Dark Folk for Dark Folk. And, that I wrote myself and I sang. And
We should do that again.
okay.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Come on and do it. It would be
Okay.
great. So we have one more story. And then after the story, then we'll take a break.
Actually, I'm not going to read the whole story. I'm just going to read a little sample snippet
Okay.
from it. Because like I said, I just literally started this morning. So since we're talking about writing, it's sort of the process of writing that we'll be doing. So, it's funny, most people are troubled by this new era we live in, but I for one embrace the change. The economy was already in the crapper, and that pointless war seemed like it would never end. We were all headed to hell in a shitbasket anyway, and I always say if you're going to go to hell, you might as well go in style. The apocalypse is hardly a time for a restraint. Restraints maybe, but we'll get to the bondage and discipline momentarily. What you need to understand is that it's not all about the sex. What Brad and I was special, meaningful. We've reached this whole new level in our relationship. I feel so connected to him now, like he's inside of me. I guess a part of him always will be. It all began a few weeks ago. I don't really follow current events, hadn't even heard about the toxic spill, I'm embarrassed to admit. See, I work at home, don't go out much, so all I knew was that Brad hadn't bothered to come home for 3 days. Again. No phone call, no nothing, typical. I was pissed, even started packing my bags. This time I was going to up and leave his ass for good. Only when he did finally show, I realized something was different about him. Maybe it was the vacant look in his glassy, unflinching eyes, how he foamed at the mouth, or that overpowering stench. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but whatever the case, it was positively irresistible. He seemed just as aroused by me. From the moment he laid eyes on me, he became a wild animal, out of control. He pounced, insatiable, clawing at me, shouting how he wanted my brains. He was fucking hot, no doubt about it. But I must confess, I also found myself a bit choked up. I'd had some doubts of late, but at last I knew he wanted me for more than just my body. He wanted to connect with my mind. I felt tears of joy well up behind my eyes. This was the real deal. Take my brains, big boy, I declared as I pounced back. You can have all of me. And he did. I swear he would have ripped the flesh right off me had I let him. Imagine my surprise when oh-so-vanilla Brad, whose idea of foreplay was taking an extra 30 seconds to lube up his member before climbing on top of me and pounding away, suddenly made our lovemaking all about me. He worshipped my entire being, licking and nibbling me all over. And when I say all over, I mean all over. His hungry tongue darted in and out of my every orifice, and not just my mouth, pussy, and anus, which would have been titillating enough to my long-neglected pleasure parts. Brad devoured every inch of me. Who knew how intoxicating it could feel to have his slimy, cold tongue penetrate my nostrils, caress my eyeballs, venture deep into my ears as though it could almost reach in and suckle my brain. My body pulsed with endless waves of pleasure as Brad fed off my orgasms exhaustively, consuming me more and more frenzied with every lap of his tongue and smack of his greedy lips. Admittedly, when the nibbling progressed to biting, I realized I'd reached my limit. I asked him to take it down a notch, even suggested we establish a safe word, but Brad was out of control. That's how he lost his right testicle, incidentally. It hadn't been my intention, mind you. I guess I squeezed a bit too hard. Oops, my bad. Still, he had no one to blame but himself. He didn't respect my limits. Trust is key when engaging in such play. He learned his lesson the hard way.
So he lost a testicle. So we have Lady Solaris, you were in there laughing. So what did you find so funny?
Well, it was just funny to realize that people in the chat room are actually talking about that when they were talking about their virginity. And the people in the chat room were talking about, nose and ears and, screwing in different places. And it's...
Wow. Well, there wasn't a lot of sex in my story. I have to say.
But it was great. Both of them were
No,
great.
but
there were no dildos.
No, but yours was definitely more of a story that you can get into and especially the way that you read is so awesome that it just draws you in and immediately makes you want to listen to your words.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Thanks.
And totally go on with that story. I can tell it's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a great story. But we're going to have to take a break. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be back in a couple of minutes. But just before we're ready to sign out on this break, Solaris, you want to read off some of the people that are in the chat room, please?
Oh, yeah.
We have B, Bible Field, something like that. Brittany's Tears, Caleb, Karina Crash, Christy 32, Connie Lynn, Disciple, Dragon, Kithra, myself, Luna, Maisha, let's see, Pebbles, Rodster 78, Sir Cause, and Wanna Be Taught.
Thank you all for being in the chat room. We're going to be right back. You've been watching the Rev Mel Show on TalkingSexRadio.com, where real people talk about real sex with real kinky people.